missionary in the community. We looked at the gender, the girl child, the gender issues. We looked at corporate SDG cooperative issues, how best to integrate communities into a cooperative activity that can help to address the SDG in the minds of every stakeholder in the community. When we mean stakeholder, we mean every resident of a community where a school or education or an institution is located. We also try to address pertinent issues that are hindering development or implementation of a lot of initiatives which are rooted to funding and weakness in partnerships. And then most of the diplomats, ambassadors that spoke yesterday highlighted on the agenda of the UN to achieve the SDG by 2030. Now we are now looking at 4 years. We are given a mandate of 15 years, and we are in the 4th year, remaining 11 years, and we are asking how best can we make things happen within the next 11 years. Time is fast moving. So today we are still continuing on that discussion to know that to empower educators to be able to address inclusive, quality, and lifelong learning in community classrooms is very, very vital. There is also the highlight that majority of people in communities, even across the world, are not knowledgeable about SDGs. So when you talk about SDG, it's still like a fallacy, that you need to break the knot to get it down to them. And one of the barriers in the communities is language. When you take up language, like in some communities that don't speak English, how do you get it out to them? And how can we succeed in having partnership in these areas to be able to address the mission we are thinking about? So there are still a lot of questions yet unanswered, a lot of concerns yet solved, but then the SDG is still on. And even at high-level forum, a lot of side events by missions and UN agencies are still pointing to these issues and concerns. And we in the civil societies are picking it up from our own side at our own level to make our own input. But how best can NGOs be strengthened to be able to carry out this mission? A lot of communities exist across the world. It's not just like the 193 countries that are members of the UN, but we have millions of communities, in the community. And in these communities we have women, we have children, we have boys, we have girls, we have community stakeholders, we have infrastructure and instruments that require attention to be able to achieve quality education. One of those challenges are electricity. Some communities don't have electricity. Some communities don't have suitable infrastructure to host a school. And some communities, the children still go to school on barefoot, not to talk about lunch in the school. So these are the challenges, and how best can we plug in as civil societies to break this knot? How best can we bring a lot of initiatives that can help to contribute to solutions? Because we are talking about education solution, to help people come into a solution that can give way to achieve quality, inclusive, and lifelong learning. So these are basically our mission, and I believe that we can do more justice to this, much more better today, so that at the end of it all, through the last section, we'll be able to summarize our take-home. So as you listen to speakers present their topic today and others share forum, let us make points of our take-home. What are we taking home from this 2-day conference that can help us to go back to our various communities and begin to make mark? I was discussing with one of the speakers this morning that after this, my organization is enacting action on Education Solution Business Forum. And I believe that if you are interested in having such forums in your various communities and countries, we can partner together so that we work towards achieving one. But the important aspect for us to get done is partnership. My organization, we are just one person that we cannot touch a lot of communities. We cannot touch all, but with partnership, we can be able to achieve what we are doing. So that's exactly what we are trying to do today. And yesterday also, for the benefit of those who are not here, I was able to share our 3 years report, which we find it very vital that to provide the grounding foundation or the basis for this conference. And we looked at most of the how we've got so far and our the outcome we've been able to bring up in this past 3 years. This year is the 4th conference, and in these past 3 years, we've been able to look at the SDG 4 pillars of learning. We've been able to look at the branches, the points of the pillars of learning, which has to do with learning to do. Learning to do is applying the learned knowledge to daily life, to be able to act creatively and responsibly in one's environment. Develop the competence to deal with many situations and to work in teams. We also looked at learning to know as acquiring the instruments. Like in most communities, one of the instrument challenge you have is technological educational instrument. Most of the communities are not knowledgeable about the technology education. And learning to know is one of the pillars that we need to get this to them, that they need to know about the instrument of technological instrument, the computers, the iPad, the cell. A lot of them can have access to cell phone, but they don't have access to computers. So building the curriculum for the community and school environment to create the understanding or resources for learning how to learn. So building a curriculum for the community. And then in this aspect, we are trying to look at the 5 P's of SDG. And one of the P's is the planet. And we consider planet as the environment of the community. What are the curriculum can be derived to suit every subject, every career in that community? Because that is the foundation of what you are learning. And that can take you to places. You know, one of the challenges that I personally observe as an educator from my country in Africa is we have a curriculum that came from originally from people that brought education to Africa. Now, they tell us that when you want to learn alphabet the first day at school, we say A is apple. Now, a child in my village, in my community, has never seen apple. He has never tasted apple. He has never touched apple. So we are starting this education that A is apple, Z is zebra. Unlike their counterparts overseas, who from the first day he came to the world started drinking apple juice, apple sauce. Before the age of 2 years, visited apple plantation. He has seen apple all over with. So the challenge we have in my community in Africa, we start education by cramming, not by learning. And this has continued to take us to the level that even after graduating in medical school, pharmacy school, because we find it difficult to learn from resources, from curriculum, from our environment, we are not different from a trader who has not been to school, who does buying and selling. Because as a pharmacist, I will go to China, I will go to India, come to America, England, and buy medication. Open a store and put it there. We come and buy in communities. So what about the resources in our community? Were we able to learn? Pick curriculum for those to teach me about pharmaceutical education. That instead of going to China and India to buy medication, I go to the back of my house and plug herbs, roots, rules to make medication that is suitable for the indigenous of the community. And I remember very vividly when I grew up with my grandmother, if you are in the kitchen cutting pepper for her and the knife do whack on your hand, when blood comes out, she goes back to the back of the kitchen, plugs on the switch, she put it there. And within seconds, the blood dries, and there is no scar. Today, have a wound, you are taken to the hospital. You have dressing, you have process, you have all those things. At the end of it all, you leave you with scar. Yes. So, but then, when I was going in the health forum 2 years ago, they said, we are talking about the cleanliness, the whatever, everything has a definition, everything has a concept. I say yes, but if I'm a pharmacist and I attend the pharmaceutical school, I know how to process this to suit my community. Because this is exactly what we are trying to look at. The indigenous in the community, most of the medication we bring here, our system, we are not accrued to the environment of where the medications were produced. So we came back home and we putting it. Most of the cases, it will solve one and cause thousands of problems. So you see why curriculum from the environment for all levels of education is very, very important. Because we can't continue to address quality and inclusive education for just verbal theory. We want to get it into practice. So that is one of the pillars of learning. The pillars of learning also mentioned learning to be, acquiring universal shared values, developing self-knowledge, becoming immersed in the community, culture, and development of learners' personality. Learning to live together, promoting community and social cohesion and peaceful coexistence, and being able to celebrate diversity in people and in their histories, traditions, beliefs, values, cultures, by developing and understanding others in the school community and being interdependent. So we also noted that the idea of the integrated approach of SDG 4 and targets to education reflected in the 4 pillars of learning no significant influence on policy, debates, teacher training, and curriculum development. These 4 pillars of learning remain relevant to the integrated approach of SDG 4 and targets to education. Now, in these 4 ways, we also identify that means of implementing SDG 4 and target is a problem. And then, how can it be implemented? What we identified about training, educating, empowerment, through workshop, through conferences and everything, that those things are very, very vital. Training is very, very vital. But there are challenges. Some of the educators don't have money to get trained. Some schools in the community don't have the funds. And then we talk about scholarship provision, training fund, professional development funding that can be needed. Now, in most governments, if instead of using fund to place a director at a high-level salary, why don't you have some discount, to open a funding that can be able to address these issues. Another point we brought up is using the community indigenous who are rich, to help them raise money and have a community stakeholder fund. Now, from that fund, the teachers, educators can be picked to be educated, to be trained, to all do that. And again, another challenge comes, even where you have money and you don't have access to travel, you don't have the ticket to travel, what do? And we came up with the agenda of Global Teachers Classroom, an online platform to be able to handle some of these things. Once you have your phone or you have access to internet, you can be able to log in to do a program or training. So, and then we also look at the teachers and the educators themselves. The teachers and the educators, how prepared are they to teach quality from the community or the classroom? How prepared are they? In my country, we teachers are very, very weak teachers, very extremely weak. Because all we are doing, let me go to school, 8 to 5 p.m. to get my salary. And then immediately you are employed, the school director gives you a set of textbooks as you are teaching. Now every day you open your textbook to recite to the students. They don't have the spirit of exploring to improve their teaching career. So the spirit of career spirit is not in some of majority of the teachers in community classrooms. Some of them, there was a time when I was in Nigeria, we were having this issue about if you don't come to school, you are punished, you are penalized, your salary is cut off. Then teachers started coming to school. If not, you can come up to school as a teacher, as a head of the school. The next thing you will hear is that Miss Ada said that her child is sick, she's taking her to school. Meanwhile, she has taken her goods to the market to sell. You see? So there wasn't that kind of professional satisfaction. Because when you have that passion, that love for what you are doing, you'll be moved to do it rightly. You'll be moved to explore your environment, to know the best instrument to make your teachers, your students learn. So all these are inclusive. The teachers themselves, the school infrastructure, the community, the educators, the government, they're all inclusive. And the children and parents is inclusive. So education in community should include some of those things. And not just taking a child to school. You know, I run a private school in Nigeria. And one of the things, when I noticed that, because when we are growing up, when you come back from school, your parents will sit with you on the table and you do your homework. They help you go through your book. And my mother as a teacher, if there is any problem, the next moment she is in the school to talk to the teacher. But these days, parents, they don't care. They don't care. The next, when you are complaining some of these things as parents for, they tell you after all we pay school fees. So the school should handle them. You know? So what I did was that you pay school fees, fine. But remember, to educate your child is parents and teachers and the school. It must go hand in hand. So what do? We teach the children. The children go home, do their homework. We stop flogging them when they don't do homework. But in the middle of the term, they go home, they have a take-home work. And parents must sign that they participated. In fact, each question has a parental input. And that was how I arrested them. In fact, one of the parents was telling me, on Monday of the when we started, he came, he said, Mr. Okika, which kind of punishment, what kind of punishment is this? That throughout Sunday I didn't go to church, every book, every textbook somewhere on my bed. The children were, I said, yes. So, you people are doing wonderful. I didn't know this is what we are doing. Okay, so you have not been following their children's academic work. So these are the indices and strategies we need to bring on to see how best to get teachers. And they make the work of teachers easy. You know, then we'll introduce another aspect that every month you must have a parent who will have we said parent teachers, what do they call it? Forum. Parent teachers forum. There must be a day in a month where 2 teachers will visit the class in a day. They spend at least 1 hour in the class. Monitor this teacher, monitor these children, monitor what is going on, and report to the PTA, who will report to the management. You make them responsible. They join to become responsible. you know. So they begin to appreciate what the teachers are doing for their own children, you know. So these are what we have to address in getting teachers to be more responsible. Good morning, President. So we have some of these as challenges in trying to address quality and inclusive education. So the education solution is solely an initiative to address SDG 4 among the 17 SDGs, because we see SDG 4 as a cornerstone, as a bona fide target goal to achieve the 17 goals. Because without education, you can never achieve gender equality. You've heard of them who say empowerment of women, empowerment of girls. What are you empowering without education? You can't end hunger. You cannot end poverty. And education is an instrument. Even if you are doing a non-academic training, skill training, labor force, it is still education. You are training somebody how to be a hairdresser, how to make cake, how to do this. It's still education. So we are looking at solutions both through formal and non-formal education, developing academic training skills that can equip an individual to face sustainable living, which is a lifelong learning. So I don't want to take much of your time because we are going to listen to a lot of speakers today. And I thank God that the Deputy Ambassador of Japan is here to give us an opening remark. Thank you, Your Excellency. And before that, in conclusion for our report, we did say that in all, Education Solutions 15-year strategic plan is hoped to help effect human development and collective transformation towards raising consciousness, empowering learning, knowledge building, training, and hands-on skills development to ensure quality and inclusive education for lifelong learning in all sectors of education in community classrooms. Our organization, the Center for SDG Global Education, and our partners hope that the discussion, participation, and presentation from the 4th Annual Education International Conference will set the actual machinery and partners to an action program for the next 11 years of the 2030 Development Agenda. So let's keep the spirit together in partnership and support. Thank you so much. And before I hand over, I would like to hand over the mic to our moderator and coordinator for the day, in person of Lisa Scott. Lisa is from Rutgers School of Management and Labor Relations, and is an educator. She is going to take charge of today's program. So Lisa, please.
Good morning, everyone. And welcome to day 2. As mentioned, my name is Lisa Scott. I'm the registrar at Rutgers University in New Jersey. And I'm just going to say a few words before I turn the mic over to our panelists and our speakers for today. Yesterday was very uplifting, very empowering. A lot of things were said, and we just had a great recap by Dr. Ada. And I just wanted to make a mention of a couple of things that I thought about last evening when I was recapping the evening in my head. And I first wanted to say that everything in my life, I have to give praise to God because He is the head of my life, and I believe without Him, nothing is possible. I also believe with Him, all things are possible.
Amen.
I wanted to start off by saying one key word that I thought about with this conference is resilient. And then I broke the word down into an actual acronym. And so I'm just going to tell you what some of those key words that I thought resilient should mean to not only myself, but to everyone. And I also believe that being resilient is one of the key components that we all must have and possess in order to accomplish everything, including the mission, and especially the mission that we are all out here for today. for R, ready. E, empowered, steady, inspired, leader. I, exercise, know as a vitamin today. So, okay, so okay, bear with us one moment. We just have a little bit of change in the program. So we're going to call some speakers up to the table before we go forward with the opening statement. If we could please have Dr. Zal Velez to make his way to the table, please. Dr. Umana. August Mudia. Thank you for your patience. Dr. Josie Velez. Ambassador Tushia Osiino. And Dr. Akiko, excuse me, Maria. Thank you all for your patience as we had a little switch in the program. Okay, thank you very much for your patience. So I was actually wrapping up with resilience, and I think that the point was made, and I hope it was well received. I wanted to tell you a quick story about Project Pillow. Project Pillow was an initiative that I actually began in 2017, and it was a thought that came to my mind on the way home from Martha's Vineyard, and it was probably a month or so after we had gotten hit by Hurricane Harvey, Maria, Jose. I'm sure you all probably recall that. Texas, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Florida, and a few other areas were hit by hurricanes. And the initiative was started because there were a lot of people that were actually homeless during this catastrophic time in our country. And I thought it was important to provide something to these places that would offer them a little peace of mind and some comfort. And so there were a lot of donations that were being given, and I actually thought that pillows would be an item that would probably add a little comfort to people that were in distress. So the initiative started out with one box and one approval at the university, Rutgers University. And with that, that one box turned into about 52 boxes, and about 45 different entities throughout the state of New Jersey had gotten involved in this initiative. The bottom line is we collected over 3,000 pillows. We collaborated with a transportation company who donated their services and their time, and a shipping company who also donated their services and their time. And we, by our own hands, packed these boxes and shipped them out to these different places. And the point I'm making there is that it all started with just a thought. It was a thought of what we can do to help. And we weren't going to take 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years, and we weren't going to deal with the bureaucracy of getting all of these different approvals. We were going to get it started. We didn't have time to wait. So I say that this time that we're in right now, we don't have time to wait. You know, we all understand what it is we want to do. We all understand the need for us to do it, and now you really just have to do it. Everything starts somewhere. I believe that time is one of the most important and most valuable currencies that we have in this world, and we should use it wisely. I know time is of the essence. We got started a little late. I just wanted to give a little quote from Denzel Washington. I just wanted to wrap up my statement with a quote from Denzel Washington. He says, "Don't aspire to make a living, aspire to make a difference." That's my statement for today. And I hope that I have inspired you all in some way. We will now ask Dr. Bala Yunusa, pardon me if I chop your name. Dr. Bala Yunusa, to the table, please. He's a Senior Technical Advisor, Office of Senior Special Assistant to the President, SDGs in Nigeria. Thank you. That concludes the statement, and we will now begin with our panelists. Thank you very much, and enjoy the conference. So, 1, 2, thank you. So we will start off the panelists with a brief bio of Dr. Zal Velez. She is the Deputy Mayor, Township of West Orange, New Jersey, educator and school administrator, first President of New Jersey Parents Foundation, first Filipino-American appointed by President Reagan to the Intergovernmental Advisory Council in Education, first Filipino-American to run for State Senator of New Jersey, first President of the World Youth Corps, recipient, Ambassador for Peace and Community Service Awards, founder and first President of the Federation of Philippine Societies of New Jersey, National Chairman of the Congress of Filipino American Citizens, instrumental in the naming of Manila Avenue in Jersey City, New Jersey, first Commander of the Knights of Rizal, North Jersey Chapter, 4th degree Knights of Columbus, historian whose historical novel was enacted in an Appraza Zurella at the Jersey City Museum on June 15, 2013, author of 24 historical novels. Wow, impressive. Please give a round of applause for Dr. Zal Velez.
Thank you so much for that generous introduction. I'm so happy to be here today. I see that we have quality audience here today, and I hope that I will not disappoint you with whatever information I can share with you today. And as you can see, we all believe in one thing, right? We believe that everyone has a talent, and that talent must be shared with everyone to make this place a better place to live in. So we are the United Nations of the world. My topic today is about the historical role of women. So I'm going to cite to you some of these women who made a difference in the history of the world. As you can see, my task today is to cite the historic role of women. Allow me to mention some of them, which I'm sure some of you know them by heart. And let me start to mention some of the 10 outstanding women in the history of the world. And I know you will tell me with your smile if you agree with me or not. How is that? Okay? All right. So let's just entertain ourselves this morning. The first one, I believe, as one of those role women, would be Queen Nefertiti. If you know Queen Nefertiti, okay? I would like to see the heads of those who know her. Queen Nefertiti? Okay, very good. So we know our history. So I don't have to elaborate on this one because she was an Egyptian queen and the great loyal wife of Akhenaten, an Egyptian pharaoh. And as you can see, her husband and herself, they're known for a religious revolution in which they worship one God. And what is the name of that God? Can you tell me? You raise your hand. Tell me. Huh? Aten, that's God. Or the sun. So they worship the sun. And everybody at that time, they want them to worship the sun. Okay, so that's the one thing about that. And this happened sometime in 1370 to 1330 BC. Okay, that's before Christ. I don't have to elaborate on that because you know her already. The second person of historic significance would be who? Tell me. Can you guess? How about the beautiful Cleopatra? You know her?
Yes.
We know her in the movie, right? But we also know her well because she's beautiful, exciting, exotic, and you name it. Okay, she's very historic because she can make any man worship her even more than Mona Lisa. How do you think? Okay, so Cleopatra, of course, has a son, and that name, the son is Caesarion. Okay, and it is rumored, we are not sure which is the right one. It's rumored that it is her son with her brother, who was also co-ruler of that time. But also some believe that it was the son of, anybody can tell me? The son of, from Rome? Caesar. You know Caesar? Okay. So you know the romance of Cleopatra and Julius Caesar, and of course the coming in of Antony, Mark Antony before that, after that. And so as a result of that, whether it was the movie or some historians or some written out somewhere, we know that Caesarion succeeded when Cleopatra was committed suicide when Antony died as a result of the defeat of the Egyptians in the Battle of Actium. Okay, so if you recall that. So next of line would be Joan of Arc. You know her? Remember the historic woman from France, as you can see. She was 18 years old, and so she wanted the Dauphin of France to become king of France. But the Englishmen were coming in and claiming that that part of France is part of England. So as a result, Joan of Arc decided that she will bring the French army forward. As a result, she was only 18 years old, and apparently the government allowed her to do that. But because of jealousy, she was accused of heresy and witchcraft. And you know, one of the funniest things you can recall is that she was charged with what? What kind of crime? Tell me. That sent her to the gallows. Tell me, anyone? Because she was wearing pants. And women at the time are not allowed to wear pants. You know that? And how exciting it is to know. So now, ladies, if you're wearing pants now, be sure you look back. Because, you know, you're not supposed to wear your pants. Those are only for men. And so she was accused of that. And she was sent to the she was burned at the stake because of that. And she was saying, but I had no choice. They took away my clothing, and they only left me with this. But that was how it was. Justice before was justice denied on that case. So she was called also the Maid of Orleans. So you can see a young lady at 18 years old became a mother of womanhood at that time. And then the fourth one, I would say, would be from Spain. Anybody who can tell me the name of that lady from Spain? Okay, how about Isabella I of Spain? What's about Isabella of Spain? We should have some connection with her, somehow. Remember, it was her who sent Columbus, right? You know Columbus? Okay, so we know that. So Columbus was very much associated with this country because we acknowledge him as the discoverer of America, right? And so Isabella reigned as Queen of Castile, and also together with Ferdinand II of Aragon, they formed Iberia and made that into the Kingdom of Spain, and as the son, their son, King Carlos I, to become Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire as Charles V. And if you recall, he is the one who has the greatest real estate in the whole world at that time. Because his real estate not only expanded Europe, but all over Asia, for that matter. So if you have that kind of power, you know how rich you can be? If you own half of Asia, so it must be very rich at that time. Okay. So anyway, how important it is that aside from the coming in of Columbus, there was also another guy who wanted to explore the world. Can you tell me the name of that guy? How about Magellan? You remember Magellan? Okay, so Magellan decided, he went to King Manuel I of Portugal and said, you know, I have a guy here who happens to be my slave. He was sent to me by the Arab trader, and I brought him back to Portugal. Now, he was telling me about this island somewhere there, and he would like me to go there with him. So he asked the king, can you give me some funds to finance this trip? And King Manuel said, no, we cannot do that anymore, because we already have India. So why do we need to go somewhere else? But then he went back to this young king, Carlos I, and said, can you do that for me? But you are Portuguese, and Spain and Portugal are fighting with each other. But also relatives with each other, because they intermarried with each other. Okay. But anyway, the king said, okay, but if you're okay, as long as I will send you 3 of my Spanish captains, and the 2 of your Portuguese captains, go there and explore that. So as a result of that, they discovered what you call now Las Islas Filipinas. You know what Las Islas Filipinas is? The Philippine Island. You know MacArthur went to Philippine Island, the Second World War. So all of these are so intricate but beautifully described by historians. And you know one good thing about this incident with Isabella and King Carlos I, it was a slave of Magellan named Enrique, who actually was the first circumnavigator of the world. Can you imagine that? It took Magellan 1 century before he was recognized by the King of Spain, because they don't want the Portuguese to be recognized. They want Sebastian Elcano to be recognized as Spanish. But 500 years later, what is coming out now? Christopher Luna provided the logic by asking the historian Capetta to actually, through his diary of Voyage 2, indicate that it was the slave of Magellan who happens to be the first to circumnavigate the globe. So that's another thing that we have to correct history with. But sometimes it takes years and years and centuries before we can put history in its proper place. So again, we have to give credit to Isabella because it was her time that made it happen. Two major discoveries: discovery of America and the circumnavigation of the globe, in the selection of a slave to become the first circumnavigator of the globe. Very interesting. Now, important also with the fact that in that same place, which we call as Islas Filipinas, is a country or a city or I would say a province called Leyte. What is Leyte in las Islas Filipinas? Leyte is where the greatest, the most glorious, the biggest sea battle in the history. Nobody can talk about that. Okay? So when the United States fought Japan and won the greatest sea battle in the history of the world, that happened in the same place that this guy came from. Okay? So these are things that we need to put into our history books. And unless we devote time to do this, then we do not acknowledge the people who were there and the personalities who made up this history. And this third, the next personality I would like to mention is from France. Her name is Catherine de Medici. So Catherine de Medici, as you can see, she's very famous because actually of her children, just to mention to you, three of her sons became king of France. Can you imagine that? Three of the sons became all king of France. Okay? And in addition to that, okay, her daughter also, okay, became also Queen of France, because when the three sons died, the one who succeeded was Henry IV, Henry IV, who now married one of the daughters, and so she was also queen. So actually, four of them became king of France. Can you imagine that? And while they're doing that, okay, one of the daughters, Elizabeth, married Philip the Third. And you know what? That was the time when France and Spain were fighting with each other. And how ironic it is that all these guys who are intermarried as a family, they keep on fighting, and at the cost of so many lives. In that particular case, the war was for 100 years. They were killing each other like crazy. And so if you look back, we should learn from that, because these women were the ones who made these kings and made these queens, and if not for these women, we have the United Nations. So now another interesting personality. Would you believe this? How about Maria Teresa? You remember her? Raise your hand if you know Maria Teresa. Okay, what is good about it? She has 16 children. 16 children. Can you imagine that? Okay, and what about that? One of these famous children is somebody you know by her name of Maria Antonia. Who is Maria Antonia? Marie Antoinette. You know Maria Antoinette? Okay, so you know what happened to her, right? when she married King Louis XVI, and there was the French Revolution, what happened to her? They cut her hair. They killed her. You remember that? So it's not very nice to be married to a king if you end up in the gallows, right? And the only reason for that, because she became extravagant. When the people were starving, she was buying so many things and decorating her palace with all this luxury. You remember some of these wives of presidents too? They got into trouble too, because you know what? They started to buy shoes, right? You know that guy? That lady? You remember that? She bought so many shoes and she was in trouble too. Okay, so when you become that lady, some of you will be that lady, be careful with your expenditure. You might end up in the gallows, like that. So next to that, and of course, we have also the next lady. Oh, this is somebody that you would like to know better. How about Abigail Adams? You know Abigail Adams? Who knows her? Okay. What do you know of her? Okay. She is the wife of? Oh, you know that, huh? You see the wife of John Adams. And what's good about it is that she was the mother also of what? Aside from the fact that she's the first lady, she's also the mother of who? Quincy Adams, who also became a president. So can you imagine that you are the first lady and you are also the mother of the president? Okay, so that's something to remember. But one thing you should remember about Abigail Adams, she was, you know, really writing and working for the women's right, if you recall that, right? If you want the hero of the advocacy for women's right, you should go for Abigail Adams. Why is that? Because when they were writing the Constitution, and there were 5 of these members of that committee, you know what the committee members are? Thomas Jefferson, remember him? How about Benjamin Franklin? How about John Adams, Roger Sherman, and Robert Livingston? The one thing that you can remember, and you should always remember this lady, because when she was there, she told the husband, my dear husband, remember the ladies. That's why I said, remember the ladies. When you write that Constitution, remember the ladies. Give them the rights. That took so many years. Finally, they got the rights. And you know what? Look at our congresses now. There's so many women now, right? If not for Abigail Adams, women would not have that right. Because if you recall, women did not even have the rights to vote, right? But it took the women, their forceful representation, that made it happen. So one day, we may not have the queen, but we may have a woman president. How do you like it? Let's give a hand to that one.
Yes.
So you have a first lady and also the mother of a president. Okay? And then we have another person, and I think you should remember this woman. She is a pilot. You know her? Can you give me her name? Okay, you know before. What's the name?
Amelia Earhart.
Okay. All right, very good. So we have Amelia Earhart. Okay, so you call, and she was the first female aviator. But of course, when she tried to attempt to make the circumnavigation flight, she died. Okay, she lost. Now the next one would be Mother Teresa. You remember Mother Teresa? Okay. So she's a Roman Catholic nun, and what happened to her, because of her humanitarian work, she was declared a saint. And of course, another last person that I have to mention, another important woman in history, would be Barbara Bush. What about Barbara Bush? Just like Abel Adams, he got also the president for a husband, and she also got his son for a president. So those are the 10 women that I can mention as role model for all the women that we are talking about today. And her last word was it, cherish your human connection, your relationship with friends and family. To us, family means putting your arms around each other and being there. I married the first man I ever kissed. When I tell this to my children, they just are about to grow up. Okay, good.
Can we give Dr. Velez another round of applause, please? I don't know about you ladies, but I feel a little more empowered than I did before I came here this morning. So thank you, Dr. Velez. At this time, we're going to introduce Dr. Toshia Oceano, Ambassador Deputy Permanent Representative, Permanent Mission of Japan to the United Nations, to the podium. Can you please give him a round of applause?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for your kind introduction. As introduced, my name is Toshiko Shizai, Ambassador of Japan to the United Nations, Deputy Permanent Representative. Well, I'm here today because Dr. Ada said that she's going to organize Education Solutions International Conference at this margin of the high-level political forum. So why don't I came here to give some blessing to the activities she's been doing. It's very meaningful. And I like this title of this conference, Education Solutions. Education Solutions. It has a very profound meaning, isn't it? We have so many issues to solve to promote education, but at the same time, education can solve so many problems. So I think this double meaning of this international conference on education solutions, I admire and respect Dr. Ada to initiate this one for fourth round, right, this time. And actually, this year is very special because high-level political forum this year focuses on Goal 4, as you know, this is about education. And Japan is very happy to work on this subject as well because Japan values education and public health also, and those are the fundamental things for individual human being. We say human security as a kind of policy of Japan to promote, but education is a key. But at the United Nations and also this SDG Goal 4, we are not talking about simple education. We are talking about quality education. And at the same time, we are talking about not the school education alone, but also lifelong learning. So this is a very additional elements that we expand our scope on that how we deal with education. So I'm very happy to be here with you and wish you all the best in this 2-day-long, intense but rich discussions. Where I was very impressed with this presentation by Reverend Armand on this history of women on the past 2,500 years in maybe 15 minutes, but 10 women. That's a great story. You know, this is educational experience, and we can learn those history because the educated persons pass on that knowledge, ideas from one generation to after, and of course with this intellectual cut to condense the human history of 2,500 years into one presentation. That's amazing, you know. So the role of when we talk about this education, I think we tend to think about how the kids or the children learn at school and so forth, but the teachers are also important. Yes, sometimes teachers are forgotten, but teachers have to have a strong, very, very important role to play, but their roles are not so much appreciated sometimes. I myself I'm now a university, I'm an ambassador now, diplomat, but my previous original job is a university professor. So I know how that the life as a teacher, professor is like. But I think we need to, of course, need to care about the kids, but also we need to care about the professors. But the education is not for kids and teachers. But the reason why I emphasize that the lifelong learning, each one of us should learn. And also, this process is, as I said, lifelong process. I think it is very important to be a human being, is to continue to learn humbly, that we are ignorant to some degree to the world. So that kind of humbleness is probably the starting point for us to learn something. At the same time, when we start learning why we study, because maybe we have a sense of curiosity. So those are the human, probably, characters we should remind ourselves to when we think about education. And what is left is, of course, is a policy. We are here at the merging of the high-level political forum of the United Nations. And the United Nations is a place where diplomats get together to think about so many policies. But today's United Nations doesn't belong only to the government. And that is the reason why I'm here, to appreciate your effort to contribute to the discussion, because this kind of collaboration between public sectors and private sectors, that makes that policy much richer than only thinking by the government officials or politicians or policy makers. You are part of the policy makers, and in that word, I'd like to express my appreciation for all your efforts, and I'd like to wish you all the best in this today event. And then I have to go back to another meetings in the United Nations for that high-level political forum, but I'm very happy and honored to be here today. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Can we give a hearty round of applause? Did you just hear that? We're about policies, you all. That's incredible. Thank you very much. If you would give a hearty round of At this time, we're going to ask Reverend Dr. Natalie Maquiza from All Nations Christian Fellowship Church to present our keynote presentation. Please give her a hearty welcome as she approaches the podium.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I'm really happy to be among the speakers this morning. It is a privilege. As Ms. Lisa said before, you cannot do what you are doing today, or if you are here this morning, it is because of the grace of God. So I'm thankful to be alive this morning. Amen. I'm thankful to be, among the living. So forgive me, I'm Dr. Natalie Maquiza. Me and my husband, we pastor a church which called All Nations Christian Fellowship Church. So you'll be hearing a lot of amen, amen. So I'm so thankful to be a speaker at this fourth Education Solution International Conference. It is a privilege for me, but I'll be talking a little bit about where we are going with all this gathering, because if we are not willing to learn from one another, then it's waste of time. And if you stand before distinguished speakers like you, and then you don't want to learn from each other, it's waste of time. So in life, we always learn from one another, no matter how many degrees you have, no matter how many titles you have, no matter which position you carry in society. So we are here to learn from one another, and as we learn, we're moving forward to go teach others. So I'm going to start about talking about education. As we are talking about education, we want education to, to reach out there, and we want education to make differences in societies or nations around the world. And I'm presently, living in the United States, but I'm from Congo, Kinshasa. And then where I come from, education is a little bit tough. It's a little bit challenging to educators and even to children, to students. Why? Because the lack of electricity, lack of, even building where to gather in order for the students to study. Some of them have buildings to study in, but they do not have furniture, they don't have seats, they have to manage. Some of them sit on the floor. So we have a long way to go as we are gathering here. So we really have to look at every, angles of issue in educations. And also, some of them, most of them, they are orphans. They do not have parents, so they have to manage. Maybe their mom and dad have been killed in war. So probably at 10 years old, need to take care of a sister or a brother who's maybe 3, 4, 5 years old. So just think about it. So thinking about school study in general, as a Christian, I'm going to talk about my belief as a Christian. Sunday school was instituted in 1780, where poor children was overlooked in society. So if you're poor, I don't have anything to do with you. So people used to look or only children who are maybe middle class. If you're poor, so forget about you. And then if you look at universities like Harvard, Princeton, Oxford, and Cambridge, they were funded by Christian, as a religious school. So we, as missionary, we have more to put in. We have a big input to put in education as you're moving forward. So as my belief, what my Bible teach me, that parents should teach children in where they should go. So education starts at home. It starts at home before it gets out there. Most of the parents always give teachers or educators, instructors hard time. You know, we send a child which you do not start, giving him or giving her education from home, and you expect a teacher out there to make him, how you parents want your child to be. So we should look at how we can educate our parents. Parents need to be educated in order for even education to move forward. So parents have a big role to play in education. So education should start at home. So as we are gathering, as we are gathering here this morning, we should also think about how can we educate parents. I understand Miss Lisa or Miss Ada, she mentioned something about workshop, conferences where we can teach parents. Once a child, they will grow to be a parent one day. So education should start at home. So parents need to teach their children at home. So as we are standing here, gathering here as leaders, so we need to look at it through that perspective. How can we teach parents? How can we get parents to be involved instead of sending our children at school and expect a best outcome of them if we don't start something at home? So we need to consider that this morning. Are we all together?
Yes. Yeah.
So as I was saying before, so parents need to work in collaboration with educators in order for SDG to be implemented in society or around the world. So parents need to work together in collaboration with educators. And also, they need to communicate, so we need to work on communication, as Dr. Lista mentioned it earlier. So communication should be a main key in this issue. And also, as we are doing that, so we need information. Parents need to get information. They need information, and we know information brings transformation. When you are informed, you be transformed, and you are transformed, you bring revelation. So that's what we need to look at. So as we are moving forward, my main point here this morning is just to encourage parents to be involved, encourage parents to work together with instructors, with teachers, parents to communicate with teachers in order to bring our children forward in studying. So I think that's all for what I have today. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you very much. So our message, each one, teach one. Each one, reach one. Please join me as we welcome Dr. Umana, founder of, Squasha. Okay, Creative Learning STEM Focus. Give a round of applause, please. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I want to say thank you for the privilege to speak to you today. I want to thank all the organizers for making this possible. I want to commend all of you for the important work that you're doing, because as you'll see in the presentation, a lot of what you're doing now, it might take some time sometimes for you to see the results, but it's creating a lot of impact as we'll be discovering here. I'll be talking today about using technology to actually help to ensure that we reach equality and inclusive education for all. And my name, Animi Omana, Dr. Omana, I am the founder of Squasha. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about Squasha and then give you a little bit of history of Squasha and then jump into how technology can actually help us in attaining this goal. So Squasha is a learning platform for elementary school age students. It covers pre-K through 5th grade, has math, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, basic spelling. But I'm going to give you a little bit of background, a little context as to how Squasha came along. So it all started in 1989. I was in my 2nd grade. The students in my class had to be ranked based on our performance. And on this ranking, I was the 31st student. Now, I'm not going to tell you how many students there were in the class because most people guess it right on first try. But one thing I want to point out, do not underestimate the power of a teacher, the influence a teacher or a parent, which we've talked about a lot of times, and even technology can have on the children. Very strong influence. So the teacher had something to say on my report card. I didn't know how to read at the time, so my older sister read those words, told me what it said. And it said something along the lines of, your son isn't learning anything, school isn't for him. And so I remember listening to that and thinking, well, my teacher should know it all. And so if my teacher has this vision, he must be right. So I embraced this vision, and 3rd grade, everything remained the same. It took my mom over 2 years of trying to rewrite that vision that this one teacher gave me. And again, we talk about the influence of a parent in the life of a child. What if my mom never had education? What if my mom never cared about these things? So right now, we're starting to help young gals to bridge the gender gap and get them all involved right now. And years to come, these gals and these young individuals that we're reaching out and being an advocate for them today will be the same ones that will be in the capacity of my mom that will turn around and encourage their children, turn around and encourage their students to rise up and become whatever it is they want to be in the future. So my mom kept on insisting and kept on investing a lot of time and working with me to learn. And I remember a lot of times she would come up and she would say, well, let's read this paragraph. And I'll say, come on, Mom, I've tried. I don't remember this word. She said, yeah, just try this paragraph. Let's just read this page. And then we're here. I said, well, Mom, I want to go play. I don't want to read. Tears coming out my eyes. But she was patient and just kept going and going. And, you know, looking back, I wonder, if I were in her shoes, would I have been as patient as she was? She never raised her voice. She was always patient. And then came my 4th grade teacher, a lady as well. She invested a lot of time, believed in me, and just kept on sewing. So it took 2 years from that initial vision that was given to me, which our words are very powerful. And so that's one of the things that with technology now, some of the things that we have incorporated is being able to give students encouraging words. So while they're using the platform, they're hearing things like, you're a genius, you're smart, you're one of a kind. So when the child begins to hear this thing over and over and over, day in, day out, you can't help but to just walk a little straighter and think, yes, I am one of a kind after all. And so past the 4th grade, 5th grade, things started to change. I started to rise up to the top of the class, and then middle school, I started to dominate. At that point in time, the only vision I had was to become a squasher. And you might wonder, what is a squasher? Well, a squasher in those days was a phrase reserved for students that were in the top 5% in the classroom. So these were students that knew it all. You can ask them anytime, anything, they have the answer. Or if you had a debate and a squasher shows up and tells you what he thinks, debate is over. The squasher has spoken. And so this was the vision I had at the point, just trying to move away from as the bottom as I can and really rise and stay at the top. And having experienced what that felt like, when I started to have children, I started to ask myself, what can I do to make sure that my kids don't experience what I experienced in my 2nd grade, but instead that they are squashers and always become squashers. And all I knew at the time was just to work just one-on-one with my son. He's 15 now. And One thing I noticed was that my patience, I'm not quite as patient as my mom, and a lot of times if I have to repeat something 2 or 3 times, I start getting a little bit irritated. I don't know, maybe it's just me. And so one of the things that I thought about is, well, it would be nice if I just did this one time, and then he could watch it or do it, repeat it as many times where, I'm not having to lose my cool. But I ended up implementing that for his siblings. And so that's when squash came along, where the concept there being, you can have some tutorials or you can have some videos of any learning concept that you want to capture one time, and then a child can watch it as many times. You don't have a child now learning something and having the parents, hit his fist on the table. I talked about this 2 times, he's still not getting it. Because then the child starts to shrink and begins to look at the learning experience as a table-pounding experience with the parents. And so one of the things that we incorporated in Squash, which really is something that technology has enabled us to do, is the ability to have the tutorials. Look, with the tutorials now, you can watch a given concept, and you can go back and watch it as many times as you want. You can watch it at your own pace. I wanted something that my children, for instance, can learn ahead of their class if they wanted to. But was also thinking, what can I do to make that other child that maybe he's at the bottom of the class, like I was, who I might be the only advocate, who you might be the only advocate for that child, to give him a chance to also rise up again. And so this also helped even as far as giving you instant feedback. And so once you learn all these concepts, it's good, but it's nice to practice, because as you practice, those concepts begin to solidify. And with my oldest, my son, he would ask for some math problems to solve. I would give him maybe 20, he would solve it quickly, I would come back graded, he would come back for more, I would do it one more time. The 3rd time, oh, come on, son. Let's do this tomorrow, next week, I was always the bottleneck, but I thought, what if I can integrate this as something then that there is no limit? So if my child wanted to do 100, 200, however many questions, so be it. And around that time, I was fortunate to go to school with some really bright minds from China. And these students were really good at math. These students, we would have some math problems in electrical engineering, these students would finish very quickly. So when I was developing this, I asked them, because I wanted to incorporate some of the concepts that they had into this, what is it about you guys? How do you guys learn? What's going on? And the common answer that I got was, it could be because they did a lot of practice. I asked, a lot of practice, what do you mean? He goes, well, those days we used to do maybe 100 questions a day. I said, 100 questions a day? If I did 5 questions, I've done enough, even as a parent, let alone 100 or even more. So having to integrate part of that and having a scenario where, for my daughter, she had a given amount of points, she was going to have some monetary reward, I think it was $10. And it would typically take her 1 month to get the number of points to get the funds. She sat down one day after school, she started doing it. She solved, I think, 500 questions, and it was very obvious that she was going to get the $10. So I went over to her, hey, daughter, you don't have to finish everything today. You can wait till tomorrow. So no, Dad, I'll keep going. And then she got 600 points. She's coming close now, but 600 questions to get it to go. Daughter, it's bedtime. It's time to go to bed. You can rest. So here I am. Now I'm trying to get her to slow down, because I didn't realize I was going to have to pay the $10 so soon. But she kept going. And then once in 700 questions. And so it was really eye-opening, because if I, as a parent, had to come up with just 20, maybe 50 questions, I was already tired of having to grade it. But then you have technology now that can come alongside, give you instant feedback. If a child wanted to do 1,000 questions, they could do. And what does this do? There are a lot of times you might actually know how to do, the kids might know how to do the basic math problems, and that's good. But you want them to be able to see it and recognize it and go so quickly, because in a typical test, if you know how to solve everything, but you only answer 25% of the questions and you get them right, or you only score 25%, you get penalized for not finishing it. And so this automaticity, technology can come alongside and help you in that regard. And the one thing I've come to realize about the technology is, however, whatever we want to solve, whatever the problem it is that we want to solve, it's just limited by our imagination. So if there's a particular feature that you're looking out there and maybe it doesn't have, perhaps figuring a way that you can partner with some company that does something along those lines, so actually integrating your proposals and things that you're doing to have it added, it could be possible. For instance, with the spelling, I would have one of my children that would come over to me, Dad, can you help me with the spelling list? They would give me 20 words. I would read those words out, and they would write it out, and then the next day we have to repeat it all through the week so they can take the test on Friday. Well, the other child also started doing spelling, and so I would read this one, I would read the other one, and kept doing it. And I thought, what can I do to make life a little bit easier for me? And that's how this came up, where essentially they would have the list of words, they would upload it, the software would shuffle it up, and read it out to them one at a time. Yes, I know it's probably not, I'm not spending as much time as I would be, but then now I'm not the bottleneck. If they wanted to do it 500 times, they could. But then someone asked a very interesting question in one of the conferences we went to. This was a homeschool mother. She said, well, a lot of times we travel to remote areas, we don't have internet, we don't have internet in those zones. What can we do? Because this is all web-based, we need internet to use. And we sat down, we thought about it, and one of the things we came up with was worksheets. And so these are worksheets that on a daily basis, 1,400 worksheets are generated, and essentially the parents could go download all 1,400, and then that could keep the child busy for a very long time. And cases for the children that we actually looking, for remote areas that might not actually have internet, we could go back down and say, okay, how many worksheets could we print that could be maybe a semester's worth? And not just going through to do the worksheets just for worksheets' sake, but actually timing yourself. Because you might be able to solve one of those and maybe you might do it in 5 minutes, you got 100%. That's good. But can you do that again now? Can you do it in 2 minutes? Or can you do it in 1 minute? So my children typically have 1 hour of electronics time, but they have to do their math before they do it. And so starting out, they would do their math in 5 minutes to answer the questions that I would assign to them before they would do it. But then they started to figure, hey, if I did this very quickly, I get more electronic time. So my daughter started doing a double-digit multiplication. She would typically take her 5 minutes. She condensed it to where she can do it in a minute now, so she can have more computer time. And for her, this is a way now that she can help her do it a lot to build her automaticity. And then the last part I want to talk about is the monitoring feature, where it does me no good as a principal if I find out at the end of the semester that 50% of a particular grade failed and they have to retake the class. Because at that point I'm reactive. What can I do? What didn't work? And I will try it again next semester. Well, I wait another 1 year. Well, 40% repeated the class this time. But having technology as part of what you're offering for cases that you can actually use technology can be a very viable option in the sense that you can, on a real-time basis, figure out how many students are struggling right now. How many students are struggling? What are we doing in the classroom that's not working? What can we change? And perhaps monitor in the next week or two to see if that's really working, so that we're not waiting till the end of the semester to find out that perhaps we have some students that are at the bottom that are struggling who need help now. We don't have to wait until then to do that. So the main things I want to leave you with is the fact that technology, where in cases that we can actually make it applicable, there are some of the presentations I saw yesterday. There were some venues that had computers and had internet access. I was speaking to someone and she said, yes, in one of those venues they actually had internet where the students can take advantage. So yes, learn how to use computer, but how can we also have those electronics or even mobile devices work in our favor towards your learning journey? And again, to not underestimate the influence of the teacher, of the parent, technology. The words that we speak are very important. Even if the only thing you do is just to come along the child and say, hey, you're doing a great job, you're going to be someone very important. You just keep telling the child that over and over again. Watch that child several years later, and you watch them with a lot more confidence, as they begin to carry out their daily activities. Well, thank you for your time. And
I think he's ready to tell us what number in the class he was. Well, I think many of us may have figured it out.
I was the last student. And, but because of those encouragement, having risen up from there to having been in a privilege to go to school, do my graduate school with students from China. If I didn't have that family and the support to help me, who knows, I probably wouldn't have done that. So I'm so grateful for parents, for educators, and for all your work that you're doing trying to capture these children right now. That's where I was. Thank you.
Many congratulations to you. So inspiring. So our next speaker is Dr. Morita from Visiting Scholar of Columbia University. He's going to talk to us about technology, education in community classrooms. Please give him a warm welcome. Thank you.
Something I really recognize, when I'm moving from office and that's even the most advanced technologies and state-of-the-art technology sometimes doesn't work due to a small kind of issue. So just I guess hearing what requests are patients, so that I can share my ideas. So anyhow, I was a visiting scholar to the Columbia University in the Institute of the Study of Human Rights, ISHR, in the year 2016 to 2017. And today's topic is in the, yes, I want to share with you my own experience, teaching experience. I was teaching in a university more than 12 or 14 years. And I recognize, like, I think it is 2012 or 2011, something started changing. That's my kind of intuitive kind of recognition and understanding. And just then I really wanted to understand what is happening now. Seems to me, so yes, and most striking experience for me in around 2011 or 2012 is, yes, in every school, then we got to introduce the most advanced technologies into the class, and that's also the same case in my school. And our deputy president introduced really good in the so-called it's a clicker. I think have you ever heard of the clickers? The clicker is a device that each student can use, and when a teacher, for instance, in front of 300 or 400 students, and if teacher asks one question, maybe with three kind of multiple kind of possible answers, so each student can use this clicker and choose one answer they think is correct. So then it immediately result will come out immediately on the screen. So a student can really understand how many students choose, let's say the answer A, answer B, answer C. So in this way, so this teaching to 300 students or 400 students can be more kind of interactive and communicative. Yes, so I think at the end of the 2012, this device, I think 300 the same devices were introduced to our school. And what happened? 3 months later, I just happened to walk around in Akihabara. Akihabara is a kind of area in Tokyo that all kind of softwares and computer devices are being sold. And then I happened to just buy in one of the software shop. And surprisingly, I found that this clicker, it cost us almost, I think, how much is it? I think it's 20,000 or 30,000 US dollars. But then, same functions can be performed with smartphones, with children, with a free app. So what happened? In 3 months ago, it cost almost 30,000 US dollars, and of course it's subsidized by the Ministry of Education in Japan. So, but anyway, it's really huge money. But same thing also happened next year. Our school was really kind enough to introduce new technologies. So they once again introduced another device, like 50,000 US dollars, whatever. But then, after 3 months, 4 months, I happened to, just search on my website, and surprisingly, I found one small USB type, in a software which can perform everything that this 50,000 huge equipment is needed 3 months ago. So of course, it's not most advanced technologies because because in a budgetary process, in the technology itself we purchased was invented in 1 year or 2 years ago, but still it's quite a radical change, and this speed of technology is really amazing, and it's coming out of the traveling. Okay, so this is what I really want to talk about. Do you remember this title, third wave? Third wave is, firstly, I think, well, I'm not sure whether we have somebody from China, but I was told by my Chinese friends that most of schools in China, this book was introduced in the 1980s. And what is this? This is the third wave. Is a title of best-selling book by Alvin Toffler. And Alvin Toffler is a prominent, most prominent futurist. And he published this book 1981. And here I have 3 propositions that I want to share with you. And you may have some comments or questions, whatever. But anyway, firstly, emerging this digitalizing society, it's called in the third wave civilizations by Alvin Toffler, demands a new way of thinking, new way of approach of education. That's one. A second question, I think maybe this kind of question is really, quite often asked, and maybe even question: can computers think? Can computers understand language? And it's really dominant question when we talk about artificial intelligence and in the new technologies, whatever. But one of the prominent, another kind of visionary philosopher questioned this very background of these questions. And he said, this is, they named rationalistic tradition. And it should be examined and revised. And third one, this is most important. Third wave civilization is third wave education, and which now really start transforming the traditional standardized hierarchical mass education into more equal, dialogical, and direct peer learning society. So that I think most of our educators and teachers and the administrators may agree with me about those the propositions, because this is something we are observing, maybe without knowing or without having all the pictures. But I think, well, phenomenally, it's something we can observe day by day. So then, third wave civilizations, what Int'l said, he said, in the first wave, it's agricultural revolution. Second wave is industrial kind of civilizations or revolutions that we have still lived, but are now start moving forward. Then, this industrial civilization characterized standardizations, specializations, centralizations, and concentrations and synchronization. Synchronization means that time should be same everywhere. Namely, if it's 10 o'clock here, then it should be maybe 8 o'clock in somewhere, but at the same time, it's no difference. So this is the characteristic of previous civilization, second civilization. That's what Int'l said. And what he said about the future, then when this third wave civilization comes, then it brings us more direct democracy and more than that, de-massification. And another kind of characteristic of third wave civilization is it will heal the historic breach between producer and consumer and create prosumers. And if we think about it, if we apply this prediction to education sectors, we can immediately imagine that division between teacher and student are not disappear. But this boundary is getting more and more vague and blurred. That's also, I think, all the teacher can agree. Because compare with, let's say, 20 years ago or 30 years ago, it's only teacher has a source of knowledge, right? But now, for instance, when I'm teaching something in my class, the student can check on the smartphones, or sometimes teacher, you are wrong. Yeah, I'm really sorry. Yeah, that's happening. So, but it's not only that. It's information is increasing exponentially, and which means that now I recognize, since 2011, what is happening? This is digital native generations, and what is happening to them? Because they have so many options, so many informations, and they can pick up according to their own taste. So now what I recognize and what I found is that each student has really different, in a bunch of knowledge which I've never accessed and I've never heard. So each student can be expert, and maybe it's not quite kind of appreciated, by this traditional academic disciplines, but they know quite well. Sometimes, not sometimes, always better than me in certain specific venue. So that's something happening. So teacher and in a student are changing, and I think we should say that now we are moving on to the age that peer learners and with the teacher as a kind of facilitators or some in a tour guide or whatever it is called. So rather than this knowledge communicators. So that's something happening now. So then, I must have it quick, right? And this is another issue. And then, more than that, at the deeper levels, what we think over once again is that background of our concept of education should be the exam. That's the point. And this one is also named by Fernando Flores. He's a prominent also philosopher, and those entrepreneurs from Chile. And he named it this nationalistic traditions, and which came from the tradition of back to this Descartes in the Western, in the modern philosophies. And this very foundation is now facing the challenge, accompanied with emerging this third wave, in the revolutions and the third wave, and we need to tackle with it, and we need in the third wave education. That's my kind of propositions that I want to put forward, throw away for your considerations. So anyway, so why we need it? Why we need this third wave education? That's quite clear, because this world is becoming much more multicultural, multilingual, and multi-faith society. That's what we observe day by day. Right? And then also why we need it? Digital native generations. As I said, children are changing. And unfortunately, adults can change, but with a lot of difficulties, right? So usually now, well, I think it's everywhere, because if we have some questions, right, how to download this app, how to start up this, then what we do usually? We ask students, right? We ask our children, so they know much more than we do. So that's something happening now. So then there's the generations. So what we need, and radical individuations, as I said, with exponentially increasing disinformation. So children get diverse in their taste and in their interest, and we must really respond to this, in the quite unique, quite different types of children day by day. So how should we do that? That I put on my article, which will be published, and if anyone wants to read it, I can share it with you anyway. So this is four issues. First, intercultural education, and the sentimental education, and the STEAM, and multilingual education. Those four elements should be introduced. That's my understanding. So intercultural education, you see, day by day, we see the kind of fragmenting in liberal democracies. So we really need to enhance our belief on democracy and rule of law and human rights. And that's quite vital. And in order to do that, we cannot stay with multiculturalism. Multiculturalism in respecting each different culture. But yes, we need to respect each different culture, but at the same time, we must enhance and promote this our common belief. And our common belief is that human is being equal and should be respected as such, and society must be accommodating those individuals to live and realize their potentials. That's the idea. That's what liberal democracy is all about. And this idea should be enhanced and should be the core belief of our educations, in the third wave educations. And sentimental educations are quite clear, because emotion does play quite a lot, right? In a school, in classrooms, and in business sectors, and we really need to cultivate this empathy and compassion. So sentimental education must be the element. And third one is STEAM, of course. It's now it's technology, in the age of technology, new technologies. And we must equip our children, next generations, so that they can, survive and thrive in the next age. And finally, this one is most important, multilingual education. Now, I'm talking in English, but my English is slightly different, of course, from somebody from China, and from Korea, and also from Europe. And based on this empirical evidence, what we are observing is we are not having only one single standardized English. No. We are observing in the diversifying and differentiating the many kinds of images in this world. And it's not only that, it's other language is also coming up, and we must be sensitized and also prepare our next generation children. And yes, and this is quite important because according, well, maybe I should share with you the experience. So we did it, in fact. We did it, bilingual education program with a Japanese student. They know only Japanese, but this impact is really remarkable, and they get interested in the global issues, and also they are much more open-minded. They become much more open-minded after this experience, this in multilingual programs. And look, this is university in the campus, and they are playing, but also they are speaking. They are trying to imitate different languages, even though without knowing it. But after 20 minutes, 30 minutes, they manage to get to grasp what this conversation is all about. And then it opens their mind, in fact, to the different cultures and the different countries. So, yeah. So once again, it's another issue. It's we organize this online session between between my university in Japan and Taiwan, and somewhere in Mexico, and also the United States as well. And we use Skype, but then we try to use in a Zoom, like recently invented new online conference system. And with Zoom, I explained to somebody, with Zoom, we can organize even a breakout session, meaning that I speak, well, I prepare and present some lectures to 300 students, in all over the world, not in Japan, not in the United States, everywhere, and they can join from everywhere. And then, if I want them to spread out to small groups, let's say in each with 3 or 4 students, and let them speak and discuss on their own, it's possible. And if you can just jump from one small group to another group and interact them, so everything is possible by this new, technologies. And once again, and more important thing is this Zoom. We can connect with even in a connection is not quite good areas. For instance, yes, so that's the beginning of my stories. When I was in Columbia University as a visiting scholar, I was approached by the director of the Human Rights Education Program. She's providing in a human rights education program for women in Myanmar, and it didn't work in fact, because this communication is so bad. But with this system, with this Zoom, you can easily communicate with women in Myanmar. And that was their first time in 2016. Beforehand, they just sent, in the DVD, and then they share it with women there, because it's not simultaneously possible. But after we introduced this online conference system, it was, I think, invented by a startup in San Francisco, and quite recently, and then we can do almost everything. So, again, with this emerging new technologies, as our the fellow speaker mentioned, we can make it something impossible in 6 months ago or 1 year ago. But we must be open-minded, and we must be, ourselves must be open to new technologies and new generations and a new way of thinking. That's my kind of ideas and propositions that I want to share with you for your kind of further thinking. So thank you very much.
Can I just ask a quick question, or maybe have you comment on what is your opinion on developing countries? Obviously, what you've just talked about is very, very important in bridging the gap, in bringing technology, in using technology to educate. But quite often what we find is in developing country, in African country, in Caribbean country, they don't even have the infrastructure. And so what is your comment or recommendation how we close the gap?
Thank you very much. That's very important. 1 year ago, here in New York, we had the largest global conference on blockchain technologies. And I happened to meet an engineer from Singapore, and he introduced me to technologies, communication technologies, which can be used even in those remote areas. And of course, we have this, how to call that? It's auto-generating in the electric system we have, right? So if we have electricity, and then even if we have no permanent internet connections, it can work. I'm not an engineer, but anyhow, basically, you can communicate and share your data with children and teachers, even in the area where they have no internet connection. That, I think, technologies that that really helps us, and we must really find it. And they don't know, how it can be applied, but technologies is emerging day by day. So that's, I think, we must really keep it.
I'm glad I'm at the table here for this conference. There's so much great information. I couldn't imagine not being a part of it. So much to know. Yosha and third wave, a lot of information. So thank you for that. My situation of boys and girls, youth, and students in communities. Please join me in welcoming August Madia from the United Nations Association of the United States of America. Bear with us for a couple of moments and we've done so much in return. Our next speaker. Testing, there we go. Our next speaker is going to be Dr. Josie Velez, and I have a brief bio. Be patient with me while I read this. She's a registered and consultant dietitian for healthcare facilities, co-author of the recently published 2018 Diet Manual for Dietitians in Healthcare Communities of New Jersey, resource speaker for wellness and nutrition, motivational speaker, past president of Dietitians in Healthcare Communities of New Jersey, founder and first president of the Filipino American Dietetic Association, recipient of the Women of Valor Award, American Diabetes Association, recipient of Community Service Award, West Orange Human Relations Commission, recipient of Ambassador for Peace Award, chairperson, Public Relations Commission for the Township of West Orange. Please give a hearty round of applause as we welcome Dr. Chris Perez. And absolutely beautiful, I must say so myself.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. It's indeed a pleasure and an honor to speak before all of you. But before I go on, may I ask everyone to stand up and stretch? Because we've been sitting for quite a while, and maybe get the blood flow flowing and circulating. Don't hesitate. In fact, I tell you, when I do any nutrition counseling, because of my desire to stress the importance of exercise, I do ask them to do something simple, which I will ask you to do right now. Okay? Do your power walking. Right? It is very important to keep moving. Right? So I hope it will help you. There are only 4 things you can do that I will share with you. This is one. You do power walking while you're on the phone, because most of you, including us, you just sit, right? In front of the computer, do our work. But it is important that within 30 minutes, every half hour, you get up. Now, this is the power walking. The other one is you spread out to keep the other parts of your body moving. So that's 2 only that you have to remember, right? Now you kick, 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 and kick back, kick back, kick back, kick back. So do you feel energized?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes, we do.
Now later on, once you get to learn that as a habit, you can be talking to someone, and yet you can be moving. And you can advance to moving the upper body also while you do the power walking. Okay, so you do the power walking while you're watching television. This is one way to stay fit also for just a few minutes. So today, message.
This really is interactive.
What is the role of women in the family and society? Most of us may know you've seen your mothers, you've seen your wives, they're always on the go, and sometimes we forget they do play a very important role. Women are actually the pioneers of nations, right? Yes, okay. She sacrifices her personal pleasure and ambitions at times to set standard, and she sets the standard of morality. She actually relieves the stress and strain and the tension of the husband. She maintains peace and order in the household. Thereby, she creates the necessary environment for her male partner to think more about the economic upliftment of family. She is the source of inspiration to men for high endeavors and worthy achievements. She stands by him in all the crises, as well as she shares with him all successes and achievements and attainments. She is the person to whom he turns for love, sympathy, understanding, comfort, and recognition. She is the symbol of purity, faithfulness, and devotion to her husband. That is quite a lot, and yet sometimes they're taken for granted, right? There are also they also function as an administrator and leader of the household. A well-ordered, disciplined household is essential to normal family life. The woman in the family assumes this function. She is the chief executive of an enterprise, which is the home. Right? Yes. She assigns duties among family members according to their interests and abilities, and provides resources in terms of equipment and materials to accomplish this job. She plays a key role in the preparation and serving of meals. At times when I look at the family and I see that the wife looks fit and able, thank you, I cannot help but appreciate the fact that this lady, that may be taken for granted at times because of her ever-presence in the household, especially for those who may not be working, but because they have their hands full, you know, taking care of the children. I have to tell you, when we just moved to this country, I was happy to go to work at times because, yes, I have to admit, not that I don't love my children, but I really needed that time to be able to do what I feel is great for me because I wanted to practice my career as a dietitian. At the same time, have a balanced life, try to be a mother and a wife, which all of us can do. Okay, so there's no excuse somehow. When I look back now, I'm mentioning these roles of women. However, I say, my goodness, all those things that we women do, let's not take for granted that we are super women. Okay? To be able to do that, especially when you see, as my boyfriend of 55 years mentioned earlier, where he mentioned the powerful women in history. They were powerful, but I would say not only on their own, but powerful because of the influence they have made, that they extended to their children and the rest of the family. As a manager of family income, this is another thing that we do, that women do. She always prefers to prepare a surplus budget instead of a deficit budget. And I've learned this from my daughter. At one time, she said to me, when I was complaining about something, and I said, oh, sometimes I think your dad is not compliant. And I feel like I have to monitor him like a child, you know? You know what she said to me? Mom, did you know, we all women and mothers should know, if you have 2 children, the husband is the 3rd. Is that right? Yes, but we take care of the husband lovingly. To a point where at one time I had to interject this. It's very important for me to take the time to be away from the kids, even when they were young. Okay? We took care of them, but I really felt the husband at times is forgotten or overlooked because of the love and caring that the mother or the wife does for the children. Right? It's not because she loves the husband less, but I think it's important to make sure that we redefine, reassure the husband that he is very important to us. So we had a project at home, and it was actually the dissertation that my husband was trying to finish. And if he doesn't finish it at that deadline, he has to repeat everything, the academic course. Okay, because when you're taking your doctorate, there is a limit. You cannot be taking that course forever. At that time, after the 7th year, if you don't graduate, you don't submit your thesis and dissertation, you have to start all over again. So at that point, I asked the children, you need to help. You have to collate, you need to help, give us help. So they stayed up late. When a friend of mine found out about it, she said, how can you do that? So late. Don't they have a bedtime? I said, they do. But when it comes to family, they better not have a bedtime because they have to help. Do you agree with me? Everything is a family project if you want it to be successful. We cannot ignore the fact that the children should be, yes, they have to be taken care of. We educate them, we protect them. However, they have to be made part of the family, at times by actually participating. And then at the age of 9 years old, I cannot forget, there was a family, because of what's going on around now. A family was being deported. This is a true story. After 15 years, they referred the family to my boyfriend. And so they came to the house, and Dr. Velez went out of his way, to write letters, to appeal to the government officials. And then one day, my daughter was busy addressing the envelope, and she asked me, Mom, why am I addressing this envelope for? I said, because you need to help this couple. The daughter is just like you, 9 years old. So you have to help address. You know what my daughter said? Yes, Mom, you always make us do a lot of things and we help. However, don't you think she should be here to help me too? That opened my eyes to the fact that here is a 9-year-old girl. She's willing to help, but she realized the 9-year-old girl of the party who was being deported was not available to help. And the mother has the nerve to say, well, she's swimming right now. So my daughter looked at me and I said to her, I realized all these years, when you decide to help someone, it's either you help, it's either you don't help, or you help and go all the way. And all the way means with you getting involved and also, addressing envelopes to help this family. Now, we succeeded in preventing the deportation, okay? So my daughter said, now I can play. Maybe she can come here and we can play. But they failed to even show up. So I remember what my father said. Ingratitude is a crime. But I dare not say that to my daughter that they were not grateful. I said, yes, we are happy for them because there are times you have to do things for others and not expect any reward, not even expect a thank you. Isn't that right? Yeah. So, two things I've learned. One, ingratitude is a crime, so we have to remember to be grateful. And I know that's one of the things that we, as the previous speaker mentioned, part of education is not just the high-tech part of the academic program, but little things, that sometimes we, even as parents, may tend to overlook. the mother is actually the first teacher of a child. She transmits social heritage to the child. It is from a mother that the child learns the laws of the race, the manner of men, the moral code, and ideals. The mother, because of her intimate and sustained contact with the child, she's able to discover and nurture the child's special traits, aptitudes, and attitudes which subsequently play a key role in the shaping of his personality or her personality. As a mother, she is the family health officer. She's also very concerned about the physical well-being of every member of the family. The mother is the central personality of the home and the family circle. All the members turn to her for sympathy, understanding, and recognition. A woman devotes her time, labor, and thought for the welfare of the members of the family. And I'm sure at times, from your experience, sometimes at your expense. But nevertheless, we go on. For the unity of interacting personalities, the woman plays the role of providing the ceremonies and the atmosphere, while the man provides the temple or the home. The woman performs the role of the wife, partner, organizer, administrator, director, recreator, economist, mother, disciplinarian, teacher, health officer, artist, and queen in the family sometimes. But I want to address this to the men in the audience. Remember, when the wife is treated like a queen, even though you just do little minor things, remember they are appreciated. And it goes a long way. Because I really believe a happy mother and a happy wife will certainly have a happy family. And if the family is happy, you will be more than happy. Now, in short, I'd like to summarize. Because of all the roles that women do, women are the key to sustainable development and quality of life in the family. So I repeat, women are the key to sustainable development and quality of life in the family. They strengthen the family. They mold the character of the youth. They seek the truth. And they also may encourage and should encourage service to God. For in doing so, we can have stability in the family, as well as responsible children and citizens who can actually build a great community